Accessing library computer data.
And to make sure that history never forgets the name Enterprise.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Pensky Podcast. How are you doing? We're back with more Star Trek. We are watching all 170 episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation. We're going through giving our thoughts and feelings about each and every one. Right now, we're up to Season 3, Episode 20. This one's called Tin Man. It was directed by Robert Shearer, written by Dennis Putnam Bailey and David Bischoff, and it aired back on April 23rd, 1990. In this one, the crew of the Enterprise discover a new life form that's a living spaceship, and they are forced to bring upon a mission specialist who seems to be a little bit difficult in the gossipy corridors of Starfleet. Anyway, for this one, we're going to be joined by Clay to talk about it, and right after this break, we're going to get talking about Tin Man.
Captain's log supplemental. Traveling at high warp, we're still several days from rendezvous with the mysterious entity which Starfleet has christened Tin Man. My immediate concern is with Tam Elbron. Starfleet considers his unique abilities crucial to our mission, yet he seems to me unstable.
Clay, how are you?
Get out of my head.
Were you born with this ability, or did it come in adolescence?
How do you know this?
How do you know? We're talking about Tin Man. Tin Man, the 20th episode of Star Trek's third season, Star Trek The Next Generation, that is. And, you know, I don't really know a good track to go into this one. I had a track.
I have a track for you.
Sure. Didn't care. I think we're going to be on the same page. My track was going to be...
More like a bowel urinary track.
My track was going to be that how this episode fits into my rating scale, which I guess we'll go into later on, but it'll sort of be broken out as we go across this podcast anyway. So, yeah, this is the episode where there's a living life form. The Enterprise has to bring aboard a difficult specialist, and they go off and do everything. So you're not a fan, huh?
You know, so I really disliked a lot of episodes from Season 1 for much different reasons. I just really did not care for this episode at all. I didn't give a shit about anything that was happening. I hated that character.
Yep.
And I don't know. It's just like there's nothing like objectively wrong with it. You know, it's like, yeah, all right, we made our episode this week, but I don't know. I really didn't like it.
Yeah, it's funny. I had always remembered it more fondly. And maybe it's watching them in order of the third season. It's definitely one of the weaker ones of the season so far. I think the concept is good. I think it's really poorly executed.
Yes.
So I mean, I guess the way to start off would be that I don't think that the character of Tam Elbron, this sort of advanced telepath who has a condition that his basic character breakdown is he's a sort of savant telepath who is extremely skilled, but he was born with a disorder where he can't seem to block out other people's thoughts. He just hears everything all day.
Yeah, his power developed from birth, whereas usually it develops in like
puberty, basically. Yeah. So yeah, the normal Betazoid development is that during puberty they get their telepathy. And before that, they aren't telepathic, but he was born as a child with these thoughts, which causes mental trauma and all that stuff because the little baby can't deal with the sort of surging emotions that are going around. His character doesn't make sense to me on the level that, because this is a TV show where they have to introduce his concept right away, he reacts to everything like he just developed this ability.
Yeah, they do the thing that I hate when they have a telepathic character on a show, which is they just have him start telling you stuff you're thinking as a way to prove to the audience that this guy's telepathic.
But he also states the question. Because it's a TV show, he has to state the question.
Basically, he's just acting like an asshole.
Yes.
And, I mean, it's like asshole, douchey telepath stuff.
Yeah.
That, as I was watching it, as it was going on, I was thinking, you know what, I think that stuff would be better, and it wouldn't seem as gratuitous and cliche if he was doing it out of frustration.
Yes.
But, like, he's got this condition where he's got voices going all the time, but he's not really... there's nothing really interesting about it. He's just like dickhead.
Basically,
You know?
you'd think after having this condition for a while, he would deal with the fact that people are going to talk to him. You know, like it's. I think what they should have done is, like you're saying, if they played it more as like a mental condition, and he was like overcome all the time, and like had a difficult, like had to self medicate or something. Like, and
if it was like if he gets off the teleporter and just starts answering questions like super fast as people are thinking them.
Yeah.
That would be kind of interesting, instead of him just being like, you want me to prove I'm a telepath? Well, I can tell you that Captain Picard's about to tell you to take that thing to the bridge, you fucking asshole.
Right, yeah, basically.
And it's like, oy.
Yeah, no, he's...
Also, that guy, I believe, is the guy who plays the mayor on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
He is, yes. Yeah, he is.
Much better in that show.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. A lot of reviews here were saying that it's not the actor's fault. This is really just an incredibly difficult role to have to play the guy that willfully sort of wants people to dislike him, and you have to play up, be like, oh, like no one likes me because I'm a dick, because I can't control my problem, which doesn't make sense.
You know who would have been great playing that character? Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah,
like with that more manic energy,
right?
That would have been a much more interesting character.
Yeah, I think you have to play. I don't get a sense that he's tormented as much as he's annoyed that other people are slightly behind him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't get the sense that he's in any sort of distress. He's more frustrated that people aren't reacting to situations as quickly as he is, because he knows what everyone is thinking.
You'd think that would make him a worse telepath, because if he's got everybody's minds going at once, you think that he would be less effective, because you'd have to strain that more. Yeah. And that actually was... But
I don't think his sickness... I think he was dealt the double hand of being exceptionally telepathic and unable to deal with it from birth.
Yeah.
It's not part and parcel, so he's like...
Oh, go ahead.
No, he's just like a super telepath.
I actually really, really liked the idea of that character wanting to... kind of specializing in less complex life forms, because focusing in on their minds was a much more like relaxing, solitary experience.
Yeah,
I thought that was really interesting. I really thought they, in the first and second seasons, my comment was usually they never get to the fireworks factory. It's always what happens on the way to the fireworks factory. I think this episode would have been helped by more stuff on the way to this fireworks factory.
Yes.
Specifically, I wanted to see him interact with Data a lot more. I thought that concept that he was fascinated with Data because he was a sentient being, but he couldn't read his mind. I liked that concept. That was cool. I wish they had done more with that.
Yeah, I think it's I think my general sort of problem is that everything this episode does it in a way that should be better than what's actually happening.
Yeah.
So it's like you're saying, this is a story that's all about trying to get to this endpoint. They got a little bit better because they have ships like attack them as they're on their way to the endpoint, so they're adding a little bit of drama.
Some like crazy fucking Romulan warbird that's just like kamikazeing itself.
Yes.
Like they don't have enough power for the shields. They just blew up and they're just zooming past them, and they're like, what the hell was that thing?
There's a lot of plot in this that people seem to be waiting for no particular reason. Like, there's the scene where the second Romulan warbird appears and they're like, we're going to attack the alien, don't interfere. It cuts to commercial. And then it cuts to, after the commercial, Data and Tam Elburn beam over to the ship. And you're like, well, what the fuck is the Romulan warbird doing in the... Like, there's a lot of this, like, timing stuff that doesn't really make sense with each other. And, like, why is the Enterprise waiting so long? Why does it park outside the star far enough so every Romulan warbird can just fly past it and go up to...
And, I mean, I'm sure this is a dumb question and I just missed it, wasn't paying attention, but why the hell are they there at all? Why are they there?
Just to make contact with this life form. This life form seems supremely important for some reason.
So, they've got a supremely important life form that they've never encountered before, who is flying dangerously close to a star that's going to supernova. And... the Romulans are showing up for some reason to blow it up, to kill it for some undisclosed reason. It apparently has devastating powers.
Yes.
Where Tam Elron Hubbard, or what his name is, connects to it psychically, and it like lets off this energy fart that destroys a Romulan warbird.
Yep.
Like like paper mache
and knocks the Enterprise around a
yeah
little bit.
And so I got to the end of it and I was thinking, why the fuck were they there at all? I mean, if they were there specifically to intercept the Romulans, that would make more sense. But I'm thinking, if this is a living organism they've never come in contact with before, is there not an element of Prime Directive that should pop up here, where it's like, we have to get it away from the supernova star? Well, I mean, technically you can't. You're not supposed to do that.
Right, and it's so far out. Yeah, it's really like...
And like, was there a crew to the ship?
They said it died. The crew died. That's why the ship was so lonely.
So was it something that was... I probably just missed all this, but was it something that was created by men?
They don't explain that. The Data brings up the point. He's like, I don't know if this was genetically built to be this ship or if it was another organism that has a symbiosis with another organism, because it did have a crew. The ship was flying through space and an explosion happened and the radiation got through its hull. It killed all the crew. So that's why it's lonely and that's why it's suicidal and that's why it's waiting to die. Yeah,
I just think the driving force of the story is not... I mean, I guess technically the main story is just about I don't really know even how to talk about it. There's a lot of story points that aren't really thought out super well.
Right. Yeah. It's got a bunch of storylines that all the storylines that are happening as they're going to meet this Tin Man creature happen, and the resolution doesn't really have anything to do with anything. You know, like the Data storyline, which is interesting, doesn't really have a lot to do with Tam Elbrum's eventual desire just to be alone. And he's having these weird conversations with Data, being like, Data, I think you can feel emotion, which the show seems to insist that Data can feel emotion, even though he plainly states that he cannot. And so Tam Elbrum's having this conversation about emotion with Data has nothing to do with his ultimate desire to be alone at the end. Yeah. And so it's all these weird stories. I thought that they should have gotten more into the Hiroshima incident or whatever, the Tam Elbrum thing that Riker's so pissed off about.
Yeah, they bring that up like twice, and he's like, that wasn't what happened, and that was the end of it.
No,
and then Riker in his head is like, fucking lying sack of shit.
Darden, if Darden had listened to me, like I'm interested in, because that's how you make the character better, right? Like, he was overcome and he couldn't function, and his disease has caused this weakness where the whole crew was killed by these Hiroshima who took offense to something. They don't do that. He's like, I could have told Darden a little bit more forcefully. I guess that was my bad. And it's like, well,
yeah, it's one of those episodes where I feel like you can get a lot more out of the characters than they chose to.
Yes.
It's weird talking about it on the other, like I said, the other side of the fireworks factory argument is like they have the stuff in those other episodes where I complain about that. Usually the stuff that they're going towards is usually implied to be very important.
Yeah.
And what they end up doing for the course of the episode is not really important at all.
Yep.
This one is a flip, where the stuff that they're going to do really isn't that important. I mean, they're just going to go see this thing and maybe get it out of the way of an exploding star or whatever. Right. But, the character of Tam Elron?
I think it's Elbrum.
Elbrum? Sure.
Tam Elbrum.
Is like the fact that he's there and has this already established controversial history, and like I think there's a lot more there to especially given where the thing that they're going to, the fireworks factory in this situation, is directly related or could be directly affected by the way this character has acted in the past.
Yes. So
the fact that they didn't spend more time on that, I think, is, and kind of felt the need to punch it up with the Romulans or something. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah.
Like if you took the Romulans out of the equation entirely, you could spend more time on the way to the giant bug thing, and
pine cone.
With giant pine cone. And I feel like if you just made the stakes higher for the pine cone situation,
maybe the pine cone is threatening. another planet or something, like
yeah, or maybe that's why the Romulans are there,
Right.
because the Romulans are afraid that this thing's gonna do, I don't know. But anyway, so like if you build the stakes to have Elbrom's interaction and involvement be like the linchpin to which way things go, then I think that makes it a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
I think they can still end it the same way. I think it's fine. I thought that ending was fine because, he's found this thing that he's kind of blank. He just wants to sit here and blow up.
Yep.
Which is whatever.
I think they survive, right? The implication is they survive.
Oh, I don't know. I just assumed they blew up.
Well, because Data gets beamed back after the supernova. So.
Oh, I just assumed they beamed him back right before it.
Oh, see, I don't think...
It takes time to walk to the bridge from the teleporter.
I think they save themselves. I think that those two uniting makes them non-suicidal because they have each other's company.
Yeah, that's fine too.
Yeah.
Sure, why not? But yeah, like I wish there was a little bit more stakes to it. So this idea that we brought this guy in the past and he cut the wrong wire on the bomb because he was sweating too much.
Yep.
Plays into it a little bit more, and there's some more tension instead of Riker just being like, yeah, I know that guy. He's a dickhead.
Yeah,
At first, I didn't even think that was a thing. Like, until they brought it up, I thought the conflict was the character conflict. I thought for a second that maybe he and Troy used to be an item or something, so Riker didn't like him for that reason.
Oh, yeah. I feel they've done that.
I'm sure
they've done. Well, yeah, they did
once.
that in The Price, but it's it's not really that relationship. It's weird. It's just the story is not driving anywhere.
Yeah.
It's really just kind of dull. I find the Tam Elbrum character just to be sort of obnoxious when he doesn't really particularly
whiny.
need to be. Just kind of whiny. Yeah. Not anyone that you'd be particularly interested in hanging around the ship.
Right.
Troy comes off poorly because she seems to be wrong about everything that's going on here, and you'd think being with another Betazoid, things would be maybe in her favor a little bit more, and it absolutely is not.
Another episode where basically all she does is say, I can sense that you're stressed.
Sense that you're stressed. It's another episode where someone else does a much better job. Imagine if Tam Elbrum was a normal person. The amount of information he gives the crew, because he can sense the Romulans, what they're thinking, he's like, they're not going to talk to you, they're going to attack you.
I actually don't think he did enough, but we'll talk about that in a second. Continue.
But it's like, he does far more than Troy. Like, he's duplicitous. He's like, he doesn't want to talk to you, they're going to go blow up that thing, maybe you should stop him. They go, okay, let's do that. It's another weak episode for Troy, and she's ultimately wrong about him at the end, where she doesn't seem to understand why he's going over to the ship when she should. It's just a weird thing. What were you saying about...
Well, as soon as the Romulans show up and they start, get into a combat situation, if I was Picard, I'd be like, hey, guy, what are they going to do? Tell me what they're going to do. They kind of get hit a couple times, and he's like, Picard... they're gonna do this, but it's only like he only talks about it after it happens.
Yes,
and like
that's true.
It's very vague. Like he's not gonna talk to you at all. He's not gonna answer your hail.
Yeah,
it's like okay, he's not gonna answer my hail. Where's he gonna shoot me?
Pull in the Generations thing, and Generations the Klingons have like Geordi's visor on, like they can see what he's seeing.
Yes.
Well, couldn't he go into the head of the Romulan engineer and be like, "What's their shield frequency? Let's just destroy them."
Speaking of engineering, I would like to talk about my favorite part of this episode.
Where Geordi gets salty with Riker.
No. Every scene of Geordi in the engineering room
with
where
that guy.
He's talking to Russell, my new favorite character.
Russell the Mute, obviously.
I don't know what was going on. Like, the dialogue that Geordi was... It was like someone... It sounded like an audition piece.
Yes.
Because he's just like doing this business and casually talking to this character who never responds.
Yeah, and
so it's like,
I'm not sure why he needs him.
If you shut your eyes while you listen to it, it's just like him going, I'm just going to go over here and twist this thing on the fourth thing. Russell, if you could hand me that piece. Thanks. Now, blah, 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 I'm going to go over here and make sure this is working. What do you think, Russell?
Russell, I'd like to... I hope Russell is an imaginary friend of Geordi's that doesn't actually exist, because it makes sense why he doesn't talk. He doesn't seem to do anything. Geordi has very funny. He's like, he's in that room, the console, looking at the warp core, and Russell's in the room, and he's like, Russell, what are you doing? And Russell just looks at me, like, shrugs, and he's like, okay.
I mean, I think what's weird about it is, like, why does he feel the need to address the guy by name?
Why does the script need to write Russell into
if he's not going to talk or have anything to do, why do you even need to... I mean, he can be there. You can still give the guy orders, but why do you need to be like, hey, Russell... Thanks for bringing that bottle of wine to my party last night.
Is Russell the first name or the last name of this guy?
I don't know.
Is Geordi on real good terms with Russell, and he's like, Russell's my good friend, or is it Private Russell?
Maybe there were two guys in engineering named Alex, but one of them is Alex Russell.
Right.
So he calls that guy Russell.
It's a they're nice to have. They're a callback to because the extras wear the old style uniforms,
right,
which is clashing with the current look that the crew has. Yeah, I thought Geordi had a weird episode because Riker was down and Riker was getting a little pissy with him.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't care about Tin Man. I care about the Romulans. Here's my in my long line of things. Everything in this episode feels like it's like not particularly well thought out. Why is the alien code name Tin Man? I love code names. Every episode with a code name is like awesome. Why is this thing called Tin Man thematically?
Because he doesn't have a heart. I don't know.
But he does have a heart. He's sad.
Yeah.
Like, because they're obviously referencing...
Because he needs some oil.
Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
The Tin Man. It's not like Tam Elbrum is going to give him the heart. I know it sounds cool. It's kind of a cool code name. They'll be like, this Tin Man out there. And I like that they keep calling him Tin Man, even though no other Star Trek has ever had a code name and they use the name. It felt weird to me thematically. The thing has a heart. Tam Elbrum doesn't give it a heart. There's no Wizard of Oz aspect to this.
Yeah.
Besides the fact it's just kind of cool.
Maybe it was Zardoz.
They should just call him Gomtu, like he wants to be called.
Gomtu.
That's his name.
Call me Spaghetti. There was one thing that I noticed. I can't remember exactly. I should have written it down, but I can't remember what the phrase Elbrum uses is. But it's a very, very earthbound American phrase, and he uses it, and Data doesn't know what he's talking about.
Oh, really?
It's a very common turn of phrase, and I was thinking, why the hell would this guy know that? Like, why? I mean, I guess there's.
Is it from like our era?
Yeah, it's a very common turn of phrase, but it was like, this guy, why would he know this very clearly American earthbound turn of phrase?
Yeah.
And second of all, why is Data only his selective knowledge is very interesting to me.
They've continued this running joke from the early seasons about Data not quite understanding it.
Like really simple things.
Yes. As he's working on a computer that he says, this gives me more information than anyone else can read. This is like, I souped up my computer terminal.
I know what it was. It was, he referred to Data's living quarters as being very Spartan.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, why the hell would this guy know that? Because that's a very specific historical reference.
Yeah.
And secondly, why wouldn't Data know that? Because that's something Data definitely would know.
Data disagrees. His room is not Spartan.
If you were to say, Data, who are the Spartans? He'd be like, well, the Spartans were blah blah blah. He would tell you.
Yeah.
But if you use it as an adjective, he doesn't understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe Dr. Pretorius or whatever the hell his name is was not a fan of Greek history.
Yeah, I'd have to imagine that scene, that whole scene I mentioned before, just doesn't seem like it fits into me.
I like that scene actually.
You like that?
That was what I liked because I liked the idea that he's trying to figure out Data. He likes Data because he can't read his mind. He's kind of fascinated by that. We get to see one of Data's beautiful vagina paintings.
Yep. Covered in a silk scarf.
Yeah.
Very.
But yeah, I wish they had done more with that. I mean, I'm sure these things probably weren't. Well, I guess there's a few in between. But I was going to say maybe they didn't go that way because there have been so many Data, like the nature of Data episodes this season. Yeah. But I mean, it's a fascinating concept,
Yeah, I guess my conflict would be is just I can't pin down what Tam's motivation are.
Yeah, like why is he even there?
I guess he volunteered for this because
Yeah.
they say he only goes after the missions that are like the most difficult and with non-humanoids. He seems to have contact with the creature.
Why are they even still using him if everyone thinks that he caused some massacre?
Yeah, that's that.
If
You
they
think
think
that
he's
would go in
like
his
mentally
review.
unstable and caused a bunch of people to get killed, why wouldn't they just be like, you know what? We understand. We're just gonna go a different route.
We'll go talk to the Pinecone by ourselves. Yeah, I don't know why they. It's drama born of let's just put difficult situation here that doesn't particularly make sense and just sort of
Yeah.
throw it out the window with the baby with the bathwater.
I wish Troy had been jealous of his power. That
Yeah,
would have been interesting.
yeah.
Like, I don't know, super like not like evilly jealous, but
Or if he used it for nefarious ends, kind of like
Yeah.
like he stuff that was like just on the line, like gray, like it's all very shades of gray, like whether or not this is like ethical of him to do.
Yeah.
They kind of dealt with that in The Price again because that was the other Betazoid episode. But yeah, he's just petulant instead of being a bad character, or like a flawed character that has even good intentions, or he's kind of a shithead that has bad intentions.
here's a question.
Sure.
How prevalent on starships is the holodeck? Does every ship have a holodeck?
It sounds like they don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking just now, he should have specifically wanted to get onto the Enterprise to use their holodeck because he can that would be like heaven for him.
Right,
Because
yeah.
he goes into the holodeck, he can have interactions with as many people as he wants, and he can't read any of their minds.
Right.
So it's the only place, like if he, oh man, they should have done it where he was stuck in another ship's holodeck and he'd been in there for like months or something.
Which is funny because Hollow Pursuits is coming up after this.
Is that what happens in that episode?
That's the Reginald Barkley holodeck addiction episode.
Ooh.
Reg.
Yeah, something like that though.
Reg makes his first appearance. Well, because it goes into you can't pin down his thing because he wants communication. He just doesn't want overwhelming because he likes
Yeah.
the ship at the end. He's like, oh, I can just talk to one person at this point.
Yeah.
I guess I'd go into that to finish off your holodeck point. I thought one of the more interesting things about this episode is it makes it clear that the Enterprise is like a luxury assignment where the hood guy is kind of just giving him a hard time, but he's like, the Enterprise gets to do all the exciting shit. He just goes back and forth between star bases. He basically like carries things
Yeah.
places, which is an interesting. It would have been nice to see a little bit of an episode that based on like jealousy, like other non-Enterprise officers like sort of jealous about
West
the.
jealousy doesn't exist. In the
That's
23rd
true. Yeah,
century.
we can't go down there. We'll wait for Roddenberry to kick the bucket, and we'll get back into it.
Then everyone's jealous.
Everyone's jelly. The greatest failing, I think, of this episode, one of the greatest failings, maybe top two. You get no sense that the ship is a living creature.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I honestly probably wasn't paying the closest attention to this episode because it bored me pretty quickly.
Yep.
But I actually didn't realize it was a ship for a while. I thought it was just a creature because I remember they have the conversation where it's some sort of like cybernetic, like android, not an android, but like organic and metal.
Yeah.
But like when they go onto it and it was a ship, I was like, oh. I actually thought it was like just a giant slug or something.
Yeah, they had a schematic earlier and Data is talking about it has chambers in it or something.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know.
Everything you hear about the creature's intentions is through Tam.
Yeah.
Which is annoying.
I mean, I can't really talk.
Well, you think why not write that it can, or it can somehow communicate? Because it's obviously telepathic. It's communicating telepathically. Why can't it communicate with other people?
Yeah,
why can't Deanna Troi get a sense out of this?
Yeah,
thing?
that's a good point. If that thing is powerful enough to connect, well, I guess he's exceptionally telepathic, but
Although, in the episode, he claims, Troy's like, you can't do this. Not even you can do it. He's like, Gom2 can do it. So why can't Gom2 talk to the other?
Well, I guess, that's the thing I was just thinking of, but I guess the rationale there is he is overly powered as a psychic or a telepath, and he is still only barely touching the mind of this thing light years away.
Right.
So Troy probably would have no shot. However, it would have been kind of interesting if they had played up the Troy and him relationship because she said that he's his patient or something. And when they get closer to the thing, then she has some sort of connection to it, and the two of them can have a scene together. I mean, it might have got kind of weird, but like a ghost, like the movie Ghost, sort of.
Yeah.
Where he's talking to her, but he's actually talking to the ship, kind of thing.
Yes.
So she is speaking what the ship is saying.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
That might have got kind of hokey, but.
Well, I mean, it can't make it any.
Yeah, just I don't know, something.
Add something. Yeah. I think it's a big failing of the script that it doesn't make the Gom2 ship a real character. So when they unite at the end, you don't get the sense that they're both mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
You get the sense that Tam Elbrum is happy because he can't read anybody else's mind while he's in here. And also the art design of the alien ship is terrible. It's like someone just took a shit everywhere and they just like sculpted it into chairs and it looked horrible.
Yeah.
The director was saying that he was very displeased with his work in this show. Just did not do a good job. It's just
I'm trying to think of what it looks like. It looks like something. It looks like a bad attempt at like a David Cronenberg spaceship, where it's like, but it's like living. Yeah. So like we can have chairs come up and it'll look like tissue and
right. We'll make it wax. We'll melt the wax and then play it backwards to make it form.
Yeah.
If it feels vaguely alien-y without the tons of. It's like if you just took the base of an alien set and didn't add like the goo and didn't add bodies stuck to the walls.
That's what I was thinking. It seemed kind of like when they went into the ship at first. I thought it felt kind of like the space jockey thing.
Yeah.
I guess specifically in Prometheus, because that's where it kind of like comes up out of the floor and like that kind of thing.
Yep.
But not great design.
Yeah, and then the episode just wraps up with maybe the best scene in the thing, although I don't think it's earned. The Data saying he belongs on the Enterprise. I don't think Data was having any doubts about belonging on the Enterprise.
That's the thing. They ended on a Data character note, but like he's just sort of hanging out and not really doing anything. If they had, for the whole episode, if they had more with him and the guy,
right,
where this was called into question, like there's not. Again, maybe I missed it, but there's no point when they get on the ship, like the slug ship, that Elbrom says, "Data, come with me." Is there?
No. Do you mean to go onto the ship?
No, like to just leave, because he's going to get on the ship and they're going to take off.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Why doesn't he say, "Data, why don't you just come with me?"
Right, and
we're buddies. I like you because we can talk and I can't read your mind.
Right, yeah.
Why don't you just, fuck those guys? Come on.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes sense to me. There's no... Data brings it up, but it's only because he's like, we have to go back because that's our orders. And he's like, no, I'm going to stay. And then Data says, oh, okay. But yeah, there's no... None of these plot threads are linking to each other, I think, which is our major sort of problem. Every plot feels it just happens. We move to the next thing. We go to the next thing. Here's the resolution. Doesn't really make a lot of sense with what we've previously seen. And here's a ending scene with Data that makes no sense because Data has never voiced an opinion that he does not belong on the Enterprise.
I just got this. I wish there was a way to maybe like re-edit Data episodes or episodes where Data has these like character moments that end with like a swell of music and just re-edit them the way that Data is seeing them, which is like really cold and mechanical.
He's got the Terminator vision.
Yeah, so it's just like it's not like I belong here on the ship. Everyone goes, "Oh," and the music comes up. It's just, this is my job. I belong here on the ship. And it's just like, it doesn't make any sense to him.
Right.
There's no emotional attachment to it.
Yep.
It's like when a puppy does something really cute.
Yep.
It's like he's not doing it because he knows it's cute. You just think it's cute. He's doing it because he wants a cookie. Or
he can't, like, his motor skills are so poorly developed the puppy can't help but fall down.
It's not... It's the interpretation of the action is very different depending on what side you're on.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Well, anyway, I think we've done with Tin Man. Let's take a little break, and then we will be back with our ratings for Tin Man.
You sent for me?
Yes, Counselor. It was Tam's final request that I explain his decision to the crew, but I believe it was his hope that you would understand.
What did happen?
I witnessed something remarkable. Individually, they were both so...
Wounded. Isolated.
Yes. But no longer. Through joining, they have been healed. Grief has been transmuted to joy. Loneliness to belonging.
Data? You do understand.
Yes, Counselor. When Tin Man returned me to the Enterprise, I realized this is where I belong.
So, Clay, on our rating scale from 1 to 5, 1 being a truly horrific episode, 2 being an episode with some problems, 3 being a standard Star Trek episode, 4 being one you could start showing to your friends, 5 being an all-time classic, where does Tin Man rank for you?
I'm going to say overall series, I give it a 2.
Yep.
Season 3, I give it a 1.
Okay.
Because I still think that there are episodes in the first 2 seasons that are just objectively terrible.
Yep.
This one is not objectively terrible. I think you can put this on in the background while you're doing something else, and it won't offend you.
I think it might be better the less attention you pay to it.
Probably.
Potentially, yeah.
And so, I mean, I can't give it a 1 because there are some episodes where even if you're not paying attention, at some point you're going to go, what?
Yep.
So, yeah, I would give it a 2 overall.
Yeah, I think it fits into my thing of my definition for a 2 is an episode with a lot of
5,
problems.
you're going to give it a 5, Wes.
This is probably the greatest episode of Star Trek. Clay just doesn't get it. This is like a pitch perfect 2 for my rating scale. Like it's not appalling. If you'd fixed it, it might actually be good, or it might knock it up to an average episode, basically.
Yeah.
But it has a lot of problems that are holding it back. So I'm going to give it a solid 2. It is right in that thing. It's definitely one of the top 5 weakest of the 3rd season so far.
Yeah, it's, I've talked before about how I like, I'm a bigger fan of interesting concepts than I am necessarily
Execution.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm a bigger fan of interesting concepts than I am like super tight plots.
Sure.
As much as I do like those, but this one, it's just like, yeah, it's got some interesting concepts, but they don't do anything with them. There's a lot of stuff there to work with, but they don't work with any of it.
Yeah. I totally. I felt bored watching it a little bit. There's nothing to it that really grabs you. It's not a good character. It's not a good character piece for anybody. Like,
it really isn't.
Whose crew episode is this? Like, who of the crew? Data? Just by default because he hangs out with him the most?
I guess.
It starts as a Troy.
It could have been a good Troy episode.
Yeah.
I mean, especially because she talks about how he was her patient for a while.
Yeah.
If they played up that would be kind of interesting. Could have been a good Guinan episode, actually.
Yeah. I'm just curious because
whose episode it is? Chief O'Brien's.
Probably. Because he can't get that force field down.
I started to write this down in my notes, but I erased it toward the end because in the opening credits, when they're going through all the guest stars' names,
yes,
Cole Meany's name comes up right as he comes on screen.
Oh, nice.
And then he's never seen again for the rest of the episode. But there's another shot where he shows up later, but for about 80% of the episode, he's not in it.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, they put his name over him being there just to prove to you that he's in the episode.
Yeah, it's not not the biggest Chief O'Brien episode. That's something I should have been tracking. What episode did Chief O'Brien have the biggest impact in? I feel he's done a couple. It's definitely not this episode. He's really just a transporter chief here.
Speaking of, I should mention that the guy who does Chief O'Brien at work is running a Kickstarter
to print his
book, which you should all buy because it's some of the funniest shit I've ever seen.
It's very, very good.
If you're a Star Trek fan, I'm sure you're probably aware of it. But
yeah, familiar with the concept. But always nice to support people.
Should get him on the show.
Who've been giving he just like stands, he just stands there, doesn't say anything. It's very dour. But yeah, it's always nice to support people who put stuff out for free. I don't know if that doesn't involve me. That sounded much more selfish than I intended to. But yeah, support.
What are you trying to say, Wes?
I'm setting up a Patreon. I need money. Supply me with money. No. I enjoy working in 9 to 5. If you want to, yeah, send me a check, whatever. But thank you guys. I think we're done with this one. Not a great episode. Season 3 is rapidly moving on its way out, and I think we have
the best of both worlds.
It's coming. Another couple episodes. We have another couple.
How much better would that episode be if there was a Van Halen soundtrack to it?
Best of both worlds or Tin Man?
Best of both. Well, all. But
all.
Best of both worlds. That would be like the best episode of TV ever.
Yeah, it's got the. We'll get to it.
Hey, Sammy Hagar and Michael Anthony, what are you doing on the Star Trek ship?
I need them playing the ending music that happens when Riker says defy spoilers for Best of Both Worlds at the end of part 1. That dun 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 dun.
It could have been like an episode of Miami Vice where they just go to a bar and like Duran Duran just happens to be there.
Exactly. It's all I need. We need a few more guest stars. Joe Piscopo has not been doing it. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. You enjoyed the content. You're on YouTube. A like and a comment's appreciated. If you're on iTunes, a rating review helps get the show out there. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. I appreciate everyone who talks to me on Twitter. Everyone tells me kind notes. Board Game Geek, people occasionally send me geek mail through that, which is
Have you ever been able to cross over? Is there a Star Trek board game?
There is. None of them look interesting.
Bummer.
Which is there. I'll get into this, I guess, at another point. But yeah, if that's a good thing. If people are board game aficionados, recommend me a Star Trek board game to get. I look at them and they all look pretty terrible. That's the.
Have I mentioned on here? I can't remember. I may have that. I wish they would do a Star Trek open world video game.
They do have one.
Do they have one?
Yes. I don't know if it's good, but there is one.
I think that would be awesome.
You think? I always liked the I feel it's one of those weird, it's kind of like, although Star Wars has had good video games, it's kind of.
Did I say Star Wars?
No, you said Star Trek.
I did.
think.
Okay.
I took you to mean Star Trek.
Yes.
Star Wars has had a ton of video games. A lot of them are not good, but at least has a few great Star Trek or Star Wars video games.
Yeah.
Star Trek does not have a great video game.
Nope.
Which is shocking.
It's what happens when your concept has no conflict in it.
Even it's not even in tone to the show, but they have like real-time strategy sort of like fighting games, which is not really Star Trek. It just has you pasted the theme onto something else like StarCraft.
Right.
But yeah, why all the stuff is there? Just make a decent game. It's surprising to me. Anyway, thank you guys. We will be back with Hollow Pursuits. Clay, do you have anything you want to plug?
Not really. I mean, if you want to follow me on Twitter, my name is @DeadMeatComic. And I have an online graphic novel I do called Dead Meat, which you can find at eatdeadmeat.com. And if you're just joining this podcast and you have a hankering for late 60s British sci-fi, Wes and I did a podcast called Back in the Village, The Prisoner Podcast, where we talk about the British sci-fi television show The Prisoner, which we finished up, it's a couple months ago at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about it. You can find that at backinthevillage.com. And I'm looking for a new thing to do. I'm looking for a new show to do. So if you have any ideas, feel free to send them at me.
Yeah, give us suggestions about something. I guess we've been trying to figure out what kind of podcast that we'd want to do. After you do a podcast or two, you realize what makes the work easy, and you realize what you can actually talk about for an extended period.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the Star Trek one. That's why it's easy for me to do. But you can certainly...
Yeah, you really need to have something that's...
unique, but with a theme, I guess.
Yeah, and that you really enjoy talking about.
Yes.
Because as I've said before, there are a lot of shows that have podcasts for them.
Yep.
I don't know how they do it, because there's just no... I mean, for me, I need to find something interesting to talk about, and not just be like, well, this is the episode where blank happens. This is the first appearance of this guy, and, that stuff...
There's a podcast dedicated to every episode of Friends. I tried to listen to it, and it's just like... Nothing against Friends. I think Friends is fine. It is impossible
but everything
to do...
against this podcast about Friends.
Everything against this one. Bless their hearts. They finished it, but it's a sitcom is definitely the hardest thing to talk about.
Oh, absolutely. I think comedy, doing a podcast about a comedy is really hard.
Yeah.
Because, how do you do anything other than just be like, this is the episode where they do this joke that's famous?
Right. Either the show is going to make you look not funny, or you're going to make the show look less funny. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because either the hosts are like talented comedians who are shitting on the material, or the material is so good that you're like, I don't need you idiots pointing out why this is funny to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, give us contact us on Twitter, all that stuff. Let us know what kind of podcast people would be interested in.
And if the answer is Miami Vice, I'm on board.
I'll cook him. Thank you guys. We'll see you later.
See ya.